Muslims accept the tradition about the Quran mostly without question. They are believers and they accept the traditional story about the Quran. It was revealed to Islam's prophet in some point in history, and it was the original is in heaven, protected, while Muslims also claim that the books by Christians are not really preserved, are not really authentic, while the Quran is authentic. This is the general traditional understanding among Muslims regarding their scripture. But scholars and researchers don't really have the same sensitivity about the Quran as Muslims do. So researchers and scholars examine texts, read history, analyze it, and they come with different arguments about the Quran that could be actually very offensive to a religious Muslim. However, if we're trying to understand what the Quran really is, we need to understand what it means for Muslims, yes, but what are some of the arguments regarding the Quran? So, one of the arguments is that after Muhammad's death, there were actually many Qurans. This is one argument. Of course, you can sense now how this argument can be really so strong against the traditional Muslim claim, oh, this Quran as we have it today is the exact copy of a heavenly tablet. But even the history of Islam itself tells us that after Muhammad's death, there were many Qurans, competing Qurans, not actually the same Qurans. By this, we mean that there were actual books or manuscripts, and every Muslim in the land could claim, I have the best Quran ever. So if the history of the Quran reveals this, I'm not sure, and scholars are not certain, that they can adopt with confidence the idea that traditional Islam claims that, listen, what we have today in our hand is the exact copy of Allah's word, while the Christian and Jewish scriptures, according to Muslims, are corrupt. You have some thinking to do here. Not only that, we had several Qurans. Actually, the Muslim history provides a list. We can actually find in the history of Islam claims that there were lots of fighting between Muslims themselves about the text of the Quran. So it has not been one and only one text. Not only that, if you read the Muslim history, you will realize a huge problem. That according to some trustworthy Muslims, the Quran, allegedly as we have it today, at some point in history lost chapters. So according to the Muslim history, we know that the trusted text, which was collected by the Caliph after Muhammad, that trusted text is missing some chapters. So this claim, actually from the Muslim texts, suggests that there is questions about the Quran as we have it today that go beyond a mere acceptance. Oh, this is the only authentic copy and it's the exact copy of a celestial tablet. So scholars can go that far. Of course, this is not a claim that makes traditional Muslims happy. Of course, some scholars of Islam, some Muslim scholars acknowledge that. But the masses, the general Muslim audience don't usually feel good about these claims. So in the Muslim history, we find there were competing Qur'ans after Muhammad's death, and there were missing chapters from what we assume to be the Quran. But not only that, we can also find evidence or many pieces of evidence in Islam's history about missing verses from the copy that we think as exact copy of a celestial tablet. So many Qur'ans, missing chapters, missing verses. And these claims are not written by hostile non-Muslims against Islam. It's actually from the Muslim history, which by many opinions is considered sacred, as it describes the earliest, the golden era of Islam. So you see here that scholars keep pushing by digging deeper in the Muslim accounts and find a lot of questions that could challenge the general Islamic claim that the Quran as we have it today is the exact copy of a celestial tablet. Now, based on these arguments and many, many arguments you can find in my book, A Concise Guide to the Quran, based on these pieces of evidence, scholars can even go deeper and claim, listen, if you examine the Quranic text as we have it today, you find that there are some verses that don't make sense. Why is that? Because there were words inserted in the verses to explain something, but the flow doesn't make sense. So, of course, this is a scholarly argument that goes completely against the reverence, the whole appreciation of Muslims to their text. But as students of text and as people who want to do research, and as people who are interested in the history of ancient texts, we need to ask questions. We always need to provide critical thoughts about major claims. For the past 400 years and so, the Christian and Jewish scriptures have been under scrutiny. Lots and lots of research has been done on the scriptures of Christians and Jews, but it seems to me that in our era, in our generation, and probably a generation earlier, there has been lots of interest in examining the Quran with scrutiny. Now, for Muslims, it is very difficult and it's unacceptable anything of the sort of textual criticism or literary criticism or anything of that sort, because it is sacred. But this sacredness comes from a tradition that is actually challenged by other Muslim traditions in the same pool of history. So you keep hearing every day about a new argument voiced by a scholar that challenged the traditional Muslim claim. So I encourage everyone to read about the Quran, and actually, if you have a copy, begin exploring what it says. And think about the text with critical approach to what it says. And read some valuable research on the book that Muslims consider sacred. And as you talk with Muslims about the Quran, make sure to understand not only what it means for Muslims, but what scholars and the critical scholarship say about the Quran as we have it today.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, visit sbts.edu/sample to access free theology lectures from Southern Seminary.